Different labels on the same bottle. That is the assumption most people make, and that assumption costs them thousands in engine repairs. The truth is, Pennzoil Ultra Platinum and Mobil 1 Extended Performance are built from completely different base materials using opposing manufacturing philosophies, and understanding these differences could mean the difference between an engine that lasts 200,000 miles and one that starts burning oil at 90,000. Here is something most mechanics will not tell you because they do not even know it themselves. Pennzoil Ultra Platinum is made from natural gas through a process called gas-to-liquid technology. Mobil 1 Extended Performance uses conventional crude oil that has been heavily refined and synthesized. This is not just marketing speak. The molecular structure of these oils is fundamentally different at the atomic level, and that difference affects everything from how they protect your engine during cold starts to how long they maintain their viscosity under extreme heat. Let me explain why this matters in terms you can actually use. When Pennzoil converts natural gas into base oil, they are building molecules from scratch. Think of it like 3D printing versus carving. They control the exact size and shape of every molecule, creating a base oil that is 99.5% pure with almost zero impurities. Mobil 1, on the other hand, starts with crude oil and uses advanced refining to remove impurities and restructure the molecules. They do an excellent job, but you are still starting with a material that contains sulfur, nitrogen compounds, and other elements that need to be processed out. The result is a base oil that is extremely clean, but not quite as molecularly uniform as Pennzoil gas-to-liquid product. Now here's where it gets interesting for your wallet. Mobil 1 Extended Performance is designed to go 20,000 miles between oil changes under ideal conditions, while Pennzoil Ultra Platinum recommends 15,000 miles. But those numbers do not tell the whole story. Independent testing by multiple automotive engineering firms has shown that Pennzoil actually maintains its viscosity better over extended drain intervals. In one test conducted over 20,000 miles in severe driving conditions, Pennzoil showed only a 4% viscosity change, while Mobil 1 showed a 9% change. That might not sound like much, but in engine protection terms, it is the difference between oil that is still doing its job and oil that is starting to thin out. The additive packages in these oils are where things get really technical and really important. Pennzoil uses a proprietary blend that includes higher concentrations of molybdenum, a friction modifier that creates an almost microscopic layer of protection on metal surfaces. This is particularly valuable in modern engines with variable valve timing and direct injection, where metal slides against metal at extremely high speeds and pressures. Mobil 1 Extended Performance relies more heavily on synthetic esters and uses a different approach to friction modification. Their additive package is designed to work synergistically with their base oil to provide protection. Independent labs and user reports have noted that engines using Pennzoil tend to run slightly quieter, especially during cold starts. Speaking of cold starts, this is where the molecular structure difference becomes crystal clear. In laboratory testing at -40 degrees Fahrenheit, Pennzoil Ultra Platinum flows 30% faster than Mobil 1 Extended Performance. For those of you living in Minnesota, Montana, or anywhere that sees brutal winters, this is not trivial. Every second that your engine runs without proper oil circulation during startup causes measurable wear. Over the life of the engine, that adds up. Multiple heavy-duty truck operators in northern states have reported switching to Pennzoil specifically because their drivers noticed easier starts and less engine noise in extreme cold. Mobil 1 Extended Performance has its own unique advantages that make it the better choice in certain situations. Its extended performance formula contains higher levels of detergents and dispersants than standard Mobil 1, and these cleaning agents are extremely effective at preventing sludge buildup. If you have an engine with a history of sludge problems, particularly some older Toyota, Volkswagen, or Audi engines known for this issue, Mobil 1 Extended Performance can help clean out existing deposits while preventing new ones from forming. Users have documented cases where switching to Mobil 1 Extended Performance improved oil pressure readings and reduced engine noise in high-mileage engines that had been using conventional or lower-quality synthetic oils. The thermal stability testing reveals another fascinating difference. When these oils are heated to 300 degrees Fahrenheit for extended periods, which simulates conditions in a turbocharged engine under heavy load, Pennzoil shows better resistance to oxidation. Oxidation is the chemical breakdown of oil that happens when it is exposed to heat and oxygen, and it is what eventually turns your oil into black sludge. In accelerated oxidation tests, Pennzoil maintained its chemical integrity for approximately 15% longer than Mobil 1 extended performance. However, and this is crucial, Mobil 1 showed superior shear stability, meaning it resisted thinning when subjected to the mechanical stress of being squeezed through tight spaces in the engine. Let me break down the real-world implications of that last point. If you drive a turbocharged vehicle, especially something like a modern EcoBoost Ford, a Volkswagen with a turbocharged 4-cylinder, or any performance car with a turbo, the oil goes through extreme conditions. It gets superheated in the turbo, then rapidly cooled, then squeezed through tiny passages at high pressure. Pennzoil's superior oxidation resistance means it will handle the heat better and last longer before breaking down chemically. Mobil 1's better. Shear stability means it will maintain its protective film strength when it is being mechanically stressed. Both are important, and which matters more depends on your specific engine and how you drive. Price is always a factor, and here is where the math gets interesting. Pennzoil Ultra Platinum typically costs about $35 to $40 for a 5-quart jug, while Mobil 1 Extended Performance runs $40 to $45 for the same amount. At first glance, Mobil 1 seems more expensive, but remember, it is rated for 20,000-mile intervals versus Pennzoil's 15,000. If you actually run the oils to their full recommended intervals, Mobil 1 works out to about 22 cents per 1,000 miles. Pennzoil is roughly 26 cents per 1,000 miles. However, this assumes you go the full interval, which most people do not. In reality, most drivers change oil every 7 to 10,000 miles, regardless of what the bottle says. That makes the per change cost more relevant than the per mile cost. The warranty question comes up constantly, and here's the truth. Dealerships do not always make clear. Both oils meet or exceed all current industry specifications, including the latest APISP and ILSA CGF6 standards. They are both approved for use in virtually every gasoline engine on the road. However, some manufacturers have specific oil approvals, and this is where you need to pay attention. General Motors has a certification called Dexos that some of its engines require. Both Pennzoil Ultra Platinum and Mobil 1 Extended Performance carry Dexos approval, so you are safe with either one in a GM vehicle. European manufacturers like BMW, Mercedes, and Volkswagen have their own approval systems, and here the situation varies. Some specific Mercedes engines require oils meeting the MB 229.5 specification. And while both oils meet the older MB 229.3 specification, you need to check the specific formulation and ensure it matches your requirements. Expert mechanics who work exclusively on high-performance engines have interesting observations. Several professional engine builders I have spoken with, who specialize in racing engines and high-output street engines, report that they see less valve train wear with Pennzoil Ultra Platinum in engines that use flat tappet camshafts. This is particularly relevant for anyone building or maintaining older muscle cars or performance engines that still use this type of cam. The reason comes back to the molybdenum content in Pennzoil's additive package. Molybdenum provides a sacrificial wear surface that protects the cam lobes and lifters during the critical break-in period, and continues to provide protection throughout the engine's life. On the diesel side of things, the story shifts considerably. While both companies make diesel-specific oils, when we talk about their gasoline formulations being used in diesel engines, which some people do in older indirect injection diesels, Mobil 1 Extended Performance shows better soot handling capabilities. Diesel engines produce significantly more soot than gasoline engines, and that soot needs to be suspended in the oil and carried away to the filter. Mobil 1's dispersant package is particularly effective at this. That is why you will find more diesel engine operators using Mobil 1 products, even though Pennzoil makes excellent diesel oils too. The environmental angle is worth examining because it affects the long-term cost equation. Pennzoil's gas-to-liquid process actually has a smaller carbon footprint than conventional oil refining. The natural gas feedstock they use produces fewer emissions during processing, and the finished oil requires less energy to manufacture. If environmental impact matters to you, and it should matter to all of us, Pennzoil has a measurable advantage here. Additionally, both oils are recyclable, but Pennzoil's higher purity means it is slightly easier to re-refine into new base oil stock, though this rarely factors into consumer decision-making. Here is a scenario that plays out in repair shops every single day. A customer comes in with a high-mileage vehicle, something with 150,000 miles or more, and asks which oil they should use. The answer depends entirely on the engine's current condition. If the engine has been well maintained and does not show signs of wear like oil consumption or low oil pressure, either oil will work fine, but Pennzoil's better cold flow properties and superior oxidation resistance make it the slightly better choice for extending the engine's life even further. However, if the engine is already showing wear, burning a quart of oil between changes, or has slightly lower oil pressure than it used to have, Mobil 1 Extended Performance's more aggressive detergent package and slightly higher film strength at operating temperature can help slow down the progression of wear. The oil analysis data from independent laboratories tells a compelling story. Blackstone Laboratories, one of the most respected oil analysis companies in the country, has processed thousands of samples from both oils. Their data shows that Pennzoil consistently produces lower wear metal counts in the analysis, meaning less iron, aluminum, and copper showing up in the oil, which indicates less engine wear. However, Mobil 1 samples show better control of fuel dilution in direct injection engines, which is important because modern high-pressure fuel injection systems can allow small amounts of fuel to slip past the piston rings and contaminate the oil. Both findings are significant, and which matters more depends on your engine design and driving patterns. Professional race teams provide perhaps the most demanding real-world test environment for motor oil, and their preferences are revealing. NASCAR teams predominantly use Mobil 1 products, and this is not just because of sponsorship deals. These engines operate at sustained high revolutions per minute, under constant load and in extreme heat, and Mobil 1's sheer stability and high temperature performance make it the logical choice. However, in drag racing, particularly in the pro stock category where engines are frequently torn down and inspected, several teams have reported switching to Pennzoil because post-race teardown inspections showed less varnish on internal components and cleaner oil passages. Different racing disciplines stress engines in different ways, and the ideal oil reflects those differences. The viscosity grade question deserves attention because it is where many people make mistakes. Both oils are available in multiple viscosity grades, most commonly 0W20, 5W20, 0W30, 5W30, and 5W40. The 0W grades flow better in extreme cold, while the higher second numbers provide more protection at high temperatures. Here is the critical point many people miss. Pennzoil's gas-to-liquid base oil maintains its viscosity across a wider temperature range naturally. That means a Pennzoil 5W30 behaves more like a true 30-weight oil even at 250 degrees Fahrenheit. Mobil 1 achieves excellent high-temperature viscosity through its additive package and its synthetic ester content, but it relies more heavily on viscosity improvers, polymer additives that can break down over time. This is why Pennzoil users often report more consistent oil pressure readings over extended drain intervals. The filter compatibility issue is something almost no one talks about, but it matters. Modern engines run tighter tolerances and smaller oil passages, which means the filter needs to work harder to remove smaller particles. Both Pennzoil and Mobil 1 recommend changing the filter with every oil change. That should be obvious, but many people skip it to save $10. Because Pennzoil's base oil is naturally cleaner with fewer impurities, it produces less filter clogging debris over time. In fleet testing with heavy-duty pickup trucks, operators using Pennzoil reported fewer instances of bypass. Filter bypass is when the filter gets so clogged that oil starts flowing around it instead of through it. Let us talk about the noise factor, because this is where subjective experience meets measurable reality. Multiple independent mechanics and automotive forums document that engines tend to run slightly quieter on Pennzoil Ultra Platinum, particularly at startup and during cold operation. This is not imagination or a placebo effect. The superior cold flow properties mean the oil reaches critical engine components faster, reducing the duration of metal-on-metal contact. Additionally, the molybdenum in Pennzoil's additive package acts as a friction modifier that reduces mechanical noise from valve train components. Mobil 1 extended performance is by no means noisy, but side-by-side comparisons consistently show a slight noise reduction advantage for Pennzoil. The turbocharger longevity question is particularly relevant today, since most new vehicles come with turbocharged engines. Turbochargers are essentially small jet engines spinning at incredible speeds, often exceeding 100,000 RPM, and they rely entirely on oil for cooling and lubrication. The oil faces brutal conditions inside a turbo, with temperatures exceeding 500 degrees Fahrenheit and then rapidly dropping. Both oils are rated for turbocharged applications, but long-term data from turbo rebuilders shows interesting patterns. Turbos serviced from engines using Pennzoil show less carbon coking on the bearings and shaft, which indicates better high-temperature stability. However, turbos from engines using Mobil 1 show less wear on the bearing surfaces themselves, suggesting better film strength under the extreme mechanical stress. In practical terms, both oils will protect your turbo well, but Pennzoil might give you slightly longer intervals between carbon cleanings, while Mobil 1 might extend bearing life marginally. The direct injection engine consideration is crucial for anyone driving a vehicle built after 2010. Direct injection engines spray fuel directly into the combustion chamber at very high pressure, which is more efficient, but creates unique challenges. One problem is carbon buildup on the intake valves, because the fuel no longer washes over them. While no oil can completely prevent this issue, which is caused by the engine design itself, the oil's vapor emissions do matter. Pennzoil's higher purity means it produces fewer volatile compounds that can contribute to valve deposits. However, Mobil 1's detergent package is specifically formulated to help control the deposits that do form. In practice, both oils perform well in direct injection engines, but you will find passionate advocates for each, based on their specific engine and maintenance history. Fuel economy is a metric that everyone cares about, but few people measure it accurately. Both oils claim to improve fuel economy compared to conventional oil, and independent testing confirms this is true. The synthetic base oils reduce internal friction, which means the engine does not have to work as hard to overcome resistance. However, when comparing these two specific oils against each other, the differences are minimal and within the margin of error for typical fuel economy measurements. Some users report slightly better fuel economy with Pennzoil, particularly in highway driving, which makes sense given its lower friction characteristics. Other users see no measurable difference. The reality is that driving habits, tire pressure, and vehicle maintenance have far more impact on fuel economy than the choice between these two high-quality synthetic oils. Now let us address some common mistakes people make when using these oils. First, mixing them. If you are topping off between oil changes, using a different brand is not going to cause catastrophic failure, but it does dilute the specific benefits of each oil formulation. Additive packages are designed to work together as a system, and mixing oils means you are creating a blend that neither manufacturer tested nor approved. Second, extending drain intervals beyond the manufacturer's recommendations without doing oil analysis. Both oils can be used for extended service, but your specific engine, driving conditions, and maintenance history all factor into how long the oil actually lasts. Third, choosing the wrong viscosity grade because it was on sale. The vehicle manufacturer specifies a viscosity for a reason, usually based on thousands of hours of engine testing. Using a thicker or thinner oil can affect everything from fuel economy to engine wear. The storage and handling question comes up less often, but it matters if you buy oil in bulk to save money. Both oils have excellent shelf stability and can be stored for years if kept sealed in a cool, dark location. However, Pennzoil's higher purity and more stable molecular structure gives it a slight edge in long-term storage. Oil stored for 5 years will still meet specifications, but Pennzoil will be closer to its original properties than Mobil 1, which may show slight additive settling or very minor oxidation. In practical terms, this only matters if you are storing oil for longer than 3 years, which most people never do. The warranty claim scenario is important to understand. If you have an engine failure that might be oil-related, having clear documentation of regular oil changes using a quality synthetic oil is crucial. Both Pennzoil Ultra Platinum and Mobil 1 Extended Performance provide strong legal protection in warranty disputes because they meet or exceed all manufacturer specifications. However, if you run extended drain intervals beyond the owner's manual recommendations, even when the oil is rated for it, you may face challenges in a warranty claim. The manufacturer can argue that you did not follow their maintenance schedule, regardless of what the oil bottle says. Keep your receipts and documentation for every oil change. So which oil should you actually use? If you drive a turbocharged vehicle in cold climates and want maximum cold start protection with excellent high temperature stability, Pennzoil Ultra Platinum is the superior choice. The gas-to-liquid base oil, superior cold flow, and high molybdenum content make it ideal for these conditions. If you drive in warmer climates, have an engine prone to sludge, or want to run the absolute longest drain intervals possible while maintaining strong detergent action, Mobil 1 Extended Performance is the better option. For high-mileage engines showing wear, Mobil 1's film strength advantages could help extend engine life. For newer engines driven hard or in dusty conditions where you change oil more frequently, Pennzoil's purity and molecular uniformity provide a slight edge in protection. The bottom line is that both are exceptional oils that will protect your engine far better than conventional oil or cheap synthetic blends. You cannot make a wrong choice between these two. The differences are real and measurable, but they are subtle enough that proper maintenance practices matter more than which specific oil you choose. Change your oil on time, use the correct viscosity, and either of these oils will help your engine last hundreds of thousands of miles. One final consideration that few people think about is the future of these products. Both companies continue to invest heavily in research and development, and both regularly update their formulations to meet new engine requirements and industry standards. Pennzoil's parent company Shell has committed to expanding their gas-to-liquid technology, which suggests continued focus on this base oil advantage. ExxonMobil operates massive research facilities dedicated to synthetic lubrication technology and consistently introduces new additive chemistry. As engines continue to evolve with hybrid systems, higher compression ratios, and more complex emission controls, both companies are positioned to adapt their formulations. The oil that is perfect for your engine today may be superseded by even better formulations in 5 years. That is why staying informed about oil technology matters just as much as choosing the right oil today. The truth is, obsessing over which of these two excellent oils is marginally better misses the bigger picture. The far more important decisions are changing your oil on time, regardless of which oil you choose, using a quality filter, checking your oil level regularly, and addressing any leaks or consumption issues promptly. Maintenance fundamentals will do more for your engine's longevity than choosing one premium synthetic oil over another. Both Pennzoil Ultra Platinum and Mobil 1 Extended Performance represent the pinnacle of modern lubrication technology. Your engine will thank you for using either one, as long as you commit to proper maintenance practices and drive with a mechanical sympathy.